Empowerment Unleashed Now is a podcast where inner authority meets embodied wisdom. The show features transformational conversations on healing, wellness, hypnosis, astrology, and conscious living. Through real-world insight and meaningful dialogue, each episode will explore how to awaken, integrate, and lead from your authentic self so empowerment becomes a lived practice, not just a concept. Dr. Bandler, what do you think some of the most dangerous phrases that people use today unknowingly where they're hypnotizing themselves negatively?
Well, I think the whole notion that something triggers you, so therefore you have to change the outside instead of the inside, is ridiculous and crushing. And, people go on the internet and hear people saying bad things about them and then kill themselves. Close the fucking computer, right? And why are their opinions so important? And if you are such a bad person, why not just become a better one?
Yes.
But the trouble is these things create bad feelings, and they keep making the pictures bigger and closer and the voices louder and closer and spinning the feelings faster in their body like it can't be controlled. And the truth is, when you have a bad feeling, you could literally spin it faster and it'll get worse. And if you slow it down, it won't be so bad. And if you stop it and spin it in the opposite direction, it will literally interfere with the thing that makes neurons go in a row. That I asked for one time a neurologist years ago when I was on a plane. I sat down and the guy sitting next to me, introduced himself. He goes, "I'm a doctor." And I said, "What kind of doctor are you?" And he goes, "I'm a neurologist." And I said, "Like a brain surgeon?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "I'm just a researcher. We just study the brain." And I said, "Well, I have a question." I said, "I do this thing with my clients where I have them take a bad memory, right? Start at the end and run it backwards, right? And if they run it backwards, people walking backwards, I'm talking backwards, I said, it seems that it doesn't bother them anymore after that." And he said, even be it ever so millimicroscopic, neurons know which one to fire next by size, because they have a little chemical charge in them. And he said, when you run them backwards, it reverses the charge and flattens them out. And he said, so at least for an extended period of time, it's not going to run by itself. And I thought, cool, I can use that.
And work with that.
No doubt.
Well, we don't know that much about brain cells. We don't know that much about cells. We used to think everything was about DNA, and that's not true. It turns out the cell wall has more to do with what goes on in the DNA than anything else. I mean, the simple example of that are viruses, that when we get a virus or a bacteria, the cell tells the DNA to make something to kill that. And it builds a little factory and kills them. And then when they're gone, it stops killing them. And that's how we build up immunity. Our immune systems are absolutely miraculous and marvelous. And our ability medically to master them is going to open up all kinds of stuff. I'm sure once I'm gone, they'll figure out how to extend our lifespans and de-age us and all the stuff that I would have wanted. And I'll stick my finger up in the grave and go, "You're too late."
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because, obviously there's a lot of improvements in neuroscience over the past few decades. Of course, with the intersection of AI coming into all this right now, where do you think NLP is going to end up evolving in with this, and how's it going to intersect?
Well, my new book is actually a comment. It's NLP and neurology, and I read about 100 of these a week, journal articles.
Okay.
Most of them are not that interesting. Luckily, I work with somebody that reads through even more than I do and weeds them down. He's a bright kid that's doing the book with me, and he's got his own machines to measure brainwave patterns. And I think eventually we're going to understand that all the things that are working in what NLP does is telling us how neurology works at the quantum level.
Yes.
And so we should be able to build more of a mathematical model of that and figure out how to get people to be smarter, faster, instead of just addictive stuff. I saw a TV show last night where somebody was addicted to their AI buddy or something, all it does is compliment you and tell her smart, and collects everything from the internet to reinforce some belief that you have, no matter how stupid or crazy it is. And the idea that, a lot of people are going, well, Australia now, it's not going to let kids use their phones during school or more than a certain amount of time. And they're going to find these multimedia companies. But what we need to do is to adjust the brain so that it starts to ask good questions instead of just trying to reinforce your beliefs.
Yeah.
The politics in the United States has taught me one thing, is that people could get so stupid, it's unbelievable. That,
Agreed.
There are, the Trump dragon has gotten people. I swear to God, if he said breathing was good, everybody would hold their breath. And it's just hysterical, that abreaction to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
To the point where nobody's going, what would be good for all of us? And, people go, are you a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? And I go, I don't approve of such things. I'm trying to figure out what would be good for all of us. I'm looking for universality in my work. NLP has got people from every religion. It's got people. I've had people in seminars who asked if the videotapes were going to be sold because if they saw talking to people, from Palestine, talking to people from Israel, they might get killed. And killing people over ideas is such a stupid idea in and of itself. Everybody goes, that we need to get smarter, and we need to do it. All of NLP began because we built a model of how to ask good questions, and it led us to everything else. The meta model of language, which is Richard Bandler's Guide to Transformation, and The Structure of Magic, probably dozens of other books that are out there. I'm the king of being plagiarized over the years, and I don't really object to it because I want the information out there. But, asking good questions requires that you can prioritize.
Yes.
If somebody comes in and I'm depressed, and you go, about what? Who cares? And if you go, how are you depressing yourself? Then you'll have a model to depress other people. Again, who cares? But when you ask the question, how do you know that? Then you're asking people to describe their consciousness, which is the very thing you need to change so that they could stop depressing themselves and start enjoying themselves. And when I wrote the book, The Secrets of Being Happy, I wrote it because we found so much research inadvertently about how being cheerful and happy makes you healthier, gets you over disease faster, you recover from surgery and injury faster. They were like, just like stress makes you sick, apparently feeling good makes you healthier. And that I had noticed that in, the first 10 years of my life, I hadn't focused on that in my clients. It's problem solving, not realizing that the problem is that they weren't creating enough. There should be more good stuff in the course of the day than bad thoughts. There should be more planning than there is remembering. Remembering is so that you can plan.
Yes.
You remember you need something, and then you go to the store and plan to find it. Or if you try to do it in the reverse order, it never works. If you just go to the store to see what's there, you'll end up with a shopping cart full of shit you don't need. That's why there are storage places by every freeway, everywhere you go in the world. It's not just in our country, it's in every country. There are storage sheds. People have more stuff than they know what to do with, and they can't let go of it.
Yeah.
I might need this someday. I understand that people were like that during the Depression, but the Depression should be over, and we should move on and figure out how to do things. I like Elon Musk is going to build us robots. I want one of those robots that does all the shit you don't want to do. A lot of people go, well, they'll make people unemployed. No, they'll make people have to get smarter. They'll have to figure out what to tell the robot to do, right? It's otherwise, they're going to have the robot slapping themselves. Stupid shit like that. That's ridiculous.
What would you want the robot to do for you, Dr. Bandler?
I would like to do house cleaning.
Yes. Okay. The basic, like
I can go for that.
House cleanings.
cooking.
I would like to do filing. I would like to enter stuff in Quicket, because I don't like to. There's a lot of stuff that takes my time away from me, so that I could do stuff I like doing more.
Yeah, I would be into that, the menial task. Someone that could sit and type for me and do that sort of thing I would really value. Yeah.
Robotic stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. So is there anything, Dr. Bandler, after working with hundreds of thousands and affecting millions of people and change, like, is there anything about human resiliency that still surprises you?
It all surprises me that
Oh,
you make a small change in a person and they show up a year later entirely different. I had a woman who I do a workshop with 15 people. It's quite expensive, but people come into it and they write me what they want before they get there. And I spend 3 days doing it to them, and I don't explain anything to anybody. I love it. They'd spend most of their time in a trance, and I go around the room, and when I'm talking to this person, I may be actually doing somebody over here. You just don't know what's going on. But I had a lady come in, and she said that she was sent by one of my colleagues, and she said, that she had been a rocket scientist, and that industry in her country dried up entirely. And her husband died, and because of her religion, that made her basically persona non grata with her parents. And the fact that she had no children meant pretty much that her life was over. And she literally said, I'm going to kill myself. And I said to her, I said, that's your best choice. And she said, well, I see no other choices. And I said, well, then you're not a very good engineer. I thought you were a rocket scientist. And she went, what? And I said, I thought you were a rocket scientist. Let's design a better brain than yours. And sat down and made it so that there was, out of all the things you can do on a planet, the number of jobs for rocket scientists is pretty limited. There are other forms of creativity that you could apply and find something to do. And, the fact that, certain people don't like you, because of your ethnic background and your religion. But, there are a lot of people on planet Earth, let's face it. When I run into these guys and they go, I can't meet any women, I go, leave the house. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. And if they don't like you, change yourself till they do. Try becoming a nice person and being cheerful instead of a whiny little mutt. And it's not insurmountable. It's certainly better than killing yourself, because, people go, well, if I kill myself, everybody will feel bad. No, they won't. They won't even remember. And a week later, they're all going, what was that guy that hung himself in the closet? What was his problem? Did he hang himself, or was he murdered? We could make a TV show about this, make some money. It's one of those things. And once I got her to do this is a weird thing. Doctors had told her she was incapable of having children. Her husband had died in a motor accident. She thought she would never find another person. A year later, she shows up and she's pregnant. And I said, obviously, you met someone. And it turned out there was somebody she knew, and I built up a relationship. She started a jewelry company and was making jewelry and stuff, and totally happy. Her whole life changed around. That if you can spend a couple hours with somebody and turn your entire life around, that to me is what personal change should be about. You set a new direction, and down the road, you're a new person. And the more time you spend thinking and planning and changing the way you think from stupid thoughts to good thoughts, the faster you'll get there.
I mean, that's the mic drop. We were just talking about your professional spiders that you use.
They are. They go to elementary schools, the states. That's like a job, Here we go again, And what's funny is, in Florida, we use Gatorland, and they bring out people, from Gatorland and have steaks and all kinds of stuff. In London, we had people that do elementary schools and teach kids about animals and stuff and go all over the place. And we had snakes that were so huge you wouldn't even freaking believe it. We had one that took 7 people to carry the snake out. And,
I heard you tell a story about a snake that went on the tube with someone that was running late. Like the snake was.
Yeah, but he had a bag of snakes. That was the first time we did it, actually. He had a burlap sack, and he had 2 big snakes in a burlap sack. And, and it was funny because they told me, they said, the snakes are going to be late. He's got the tube, and the tube is running late. And, this person's on the stage and they're all freaked out. They go, I don't know if I can do this. And I said, take a deep breath, because I wanted to tell you the snakes are late. You're just saying that. And I said, look, you're freaking out and there are no snakes. That means that what you have to deal with is the thoughts in your head. You deal with the thoughts in your head, and the snake's not going to bother you at all. You're not going to. See, the thing with problems is that people do not consider how much time they spend doing them. Because it's not just having the problem, it's thinking about it all the time. When I start asking people, even one bad memory, that, something bad happens, like the thing that you brought up, if you spent, 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 4 minutes here, maybe a couple nightmares in the middle of the night, it adds up to, 2-3 hours a day. And when you start doing the math, that's 365 days a year, 3 hours, that's 1,000 hours right there, and then we start talking 10 years, and it's like on 10,000 hours, 40 years, 40,000 hours that you're planning to feel bad about this in the future. And I always look at my clients and go, does that sound smart? And they always sheepishly look back at me and go, no. And I go, good, then let's stop it, and I'll tell you how. Because
Yes.
I know how to change bad thoughts so that they don't bother you anymore. You still know it happened, but we all have memories that bothered us at the time that we don't. It was just a question of finding the right formulas for the right things. The protocols that I've come up with over the years, the book like Get the Life You Want has got a whole bunch of them in there. And, you literally could use it, like a cookbook. You can go, it should have thumb indexes, phobia, nightmares, lack of motivation, all those things that, are commonly done because the way people think about them produces the wrong effect. And if you think of it as an activity rather than a psychological problem, people can deal with it. And that's what I found out. I describe it to them as an achievement. I get them to tell me how to do it so that I could do it as well as they could. And in the process of doing that, it it dissembles it so that they know the pieces are, that they've got voices coming from the right or the left. They're either going in or out. They got a picture. It's either over here. It's either big, close, or far away. It's in focus or it's out of focus. You know, I can't tell you how many people have got plans that are out of focus. And then they go, but I just don't know what to do. If the future is out of focus, I don't blame you, you know. But why don't we make a foundation on which to make a focused image? If you're going to scale a business and you're not doing it, then the question is, what stops you? Right? And so once you know what stops you, you can go into the future and imagine that you have and figure out what you did to get there. See, all things come from imagination.
Yes.
Everything. The building we're in, this computer I'm looking into, somebody was thinking this before it was a thing. And everything in the background, everywhere you are, all of these books, all of these things came out of somebody's imagination somewhere at some time. That little thing behind you over there that squiggles up over your shoulder. Mm-hmm. Somebody thought that and then built it. Every house is designed and then built. Every building, every bridge, every airplane. Reality is built out of ideas, not the inverse. And once you understand that on a personal level, it means that you can make plans and start to design your own destiny. And once you start designing your destiny, you just need to dissemble what's in the way and imagine what would work better. You know, what could you be thinking that would make you motivated? And how do you chunk these things together so they start to work by themselves? That's called practice. You know, nobody starts out playing the piano without playing a few scales. And, you know, you have to run these things through your mind a certain number of times till your neurology automates it. And if it's automating things you don't need there, you have to know how that stops it. And that's what my work has been about for 50 years. It's making it so that it's comprehensible, it's doable, it's learnable, because it was all about asking the right questions and having the right formulas for the right things. And that's because I focused on what worked and I didn't care why. That's the difference between a mathematician. A mathematician doesn't know, we don't care why 3 times 3 is 9. It just is.
It is.
You know, and that's fine with us, you know. And, you know, if it turns out somewhere in the universe that's not true, we won't worry about it till we get there. And if one person can do 3 times 3, then somebody else can do 3 times 3. I had a woman that was a television actress, and she was on a big hit series. And when it went off the air, she got offered a job to star in a Broadway show. And she had never really been in front of a big audience before. And it scared the fucking piss out of her. She did the rehearsals just fine, but when they did the dress rehearsal with the audience, she had the panic attack. And they were going to open right away. And the producer called me on the phone and he goes, "I'm going to lose millions of dollars." And I said, "Well, that's not a problem I can help you with. I'm not giving out money today. I'm not, you know, you'll have to go to Tony Robbins for that. That's not my domain." And he said, I've got to get this woman on the stage singing. And when I asked her, I said, when you did the rehearsals, I said, you weren't afraid of the table on the stage. You weren't afraid of the chair. You weren't afraid of this. I started naming all the things that were on the set. And she went, "Of course not. They're just part of the set." And I said, so is the audience. That's what they're there for. They're just part of the audience. You know, if you can think about, you know, the other actors and the other things, you're starring in something. They're just there to play their parts. I've used that with athletes, you know, who are intimidated by the crowds, and, you know, it throws their game off, right? They have to think of them as props. You know, the stands don't bother you. Why would the cheering people? They're just part of the movie. And when you think about it that way, it changes the way you feel, because it's how you think about it that determines how you feel, not what you think about.
Yes. Dr. Bandler, you have spoken about the unconscious mind and the body as a representation of the unconscious mind. I feel like one of the places where folks sometimes can get into their, I would say, suffering around the body is they believe that their diagnosis, they believe that they are this word or this thing that they have.
I am depressed. I have depression. Yeah.
Right?
They describe verbs as if they're nouns.
Yes. Yes.
So it's, I have frustration. I am a schizophrenic. You know, they don't think they're doing these things. And if you don't think you're doing them, you can't change what you're doing.
You can't change. Yes. They think they are the things, not that they're doing them.
Body is the unconscious. Most of what goes on in us is unconscious, you know. I mean, 1 trillion cells, and we don't know what any of them are doing at any moment in time. You know, billions and billions of neurocortical pathways all firing, running everything your heart is beating. It'll beat 1 billion times, 8 billion times in a lifetime. And you don't have to really worry about it till it stops. That
you don't have to worry about it at all.
If it stops, you'll worry about it for a few minutes.
For a few minutes, yeah.
Yikes.
You know, you're most of what goes on is unconscious. We're supposed to train our unconscious. You know, we learn to walk, we learn to ride a bicycle, we learn to speak, we learn math, we learn all of those things. You know, I remember learning to type in high school. I was told that I was not college material, so they put me in a business machines class. Back when typewriter guys, it took 50 pounds of pressure to push a typewriter key down in those days. Bang! You know, whack! You know, most people have never even seen those kind of machines. You know, and
sounds like medieval torture, Dr. Bell.
It pretty much was in its own way. When you consider that was supposed to make us employable, and you know,
Yikes.
within a decade or two, there were electronic calculators, and you know, when electronic calculators came out, you know, it was funny. You know, they were 10-key calculator was a big giant thing. You know, it wasn't a little app on your phone. You know, and but I bought my son one. And he'd do his homework. I figured, you know, give him an edge. And the teacher got mad because he brought it to school. And she said, you know, if he uses this, he'll never learn math. And I said, are you kidding? I gave it to him. He did math all night long. He didn't even go to sleep. He sat up there doing problems on the calculator, figuring out how things worked, you know. And they said, well, you can't do this because it wouldn't be fair to the other children. Because that's what education is all about, fairness, right? And so I called Hewlett-Packard on the phone and TI on the phone, called them both on the phone and told them what they said. And the guy on one of the phones says to me, he goes, how many kids are in the class? And I said, 40. And I said, cool. He said, a box of 50 will arrive tomorrow. So I went to the school and passed them all out. And who had a problem? The teacher didn't know how the machine worked.
Yep. But I'm bummed.
Pretty much.
Par for the course, right? I mean, wow. Yeah. Gosh, we really have inverted just how we think about thinking as a culture. And I think that a lot of NLP invites people into a space where they can take control of that.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing. You're taking control of your thoughts and your mind and your life. Otherwise, you have to get all benefits from being a victim. You know, and the competition for victimhood in this country and most countries, you know, everybody believes that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But guess who owns the grease? those who don't squeak.
The non-squeakers.
And live.
Yes. Yes. On that note, Steve, do you have anything that you want to ask our incredible Dr. Bandler?
Let's see, what would I want to ask? I started studying your stuff a long time ago. So, I mean, I've got patterns, I've got structures, I've got, I even pulled this one out a while ago. I've got The Adventures of Anybody.
It's like a hardback.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you remember Harry Nichols? Oh,
yeah, I do know Harry Nichols.
Yeah. Harry's a friend of mine. Oh, and he told me he voiced that for you at one point. So
yeah, he was shocked when I asked him to. I wanted him to read it because he's got such a lovely voice.
Oh, he does. Yeah, amazing.
It was, when I first went to England and heard Black people talk, I was just totally thrown for a loop.
Yeah,
they have lovely English accents, and they don't sound like they do in America.
No, not at all. No, but all this,
we don't sound like English people when we talk either. So
right.
But I loved Harry's voice, so I had him read The Adventures of Anybody. And
yeah,
originally came out on tape, and then the cassette tape, and then on CD.
Yeah. Oh, but all that considered, all the books that I started with, all the old stuff that was the foundation of all this. Oh, if somebody was just coming into this right now, and they didn't know anything about your work or NLP or all this, where would you direct them to go and then start learning more to build a better
family? Upon how sophisticated they were. If they were somebody who was ready to learn NLP, I'd get Richard Bandler's Guide to Transformations.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, otherwise I get one of the introductory books, in the ultimate introduction to NLP or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
It depends upon whether they have experience with personal change stuff or whether they're
right.
I've tried to write books for every level of everything.
Yeah.
Over the years that I've left behind a lot of books.
Right.
Oh, yes.
We just had 4 more translations come out last night.
Really?
Congratulations.
Well, we have a process now by which we have all these master trainers around the world, and I'm getting master trainers to translate the books.
Oh, okay.
So Legacy and Persuasion Engineering and a lot of these books are coming out in languages that I couldn't do it because I don't speak the languages.
Right.
I'm published in 70 or 80 languages now. And, some of them are hard, but when we get a good master trainer there, they can do a good job for that particular country. And so I try to get them involved in it.
Yeah.
With the help of Juan Perez, who's made a big difference in this to me.
Okay.
Really corralled together the troops and, headed them in the right direction so we can get more information out.
Brilliant. Dr. Bandler, we thank you so very, very much for taking this time and just speaking to us about being able to actually create change, end our suffering today, and really have a fresh new tomorrow, or actually a fresh new now.
That's a good title for a book, End Your Suffering Today.
Yes.
I love it.
Steve, we got to do that one. We got to do that one. Dr. Bandler, thank you so very, very, very much from the bottom of our hearts. We wish you just only more great things to come. I want you here to be like, for when they do the, hey, you want to live forever? Because you're going to volunteer for that. I'm saying we're going to have that in like 10 years, Dr. Bandler. You're going to be here.
We'll see.
Well, it's certainly hope.
I was going to say.
That's my plan right now.
Yes.
Hell, I just met you 2 months ago. We got stuff to do.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
You got to stay alive for me, Richard. It's such a pleasure to see you again. Oh, I really appreciate it.
I'd like to thank all the people that listen. What did you say, 35 countries?
We are in 32 countries and going up all the time, yes.
However do they do the translations?
Noah, how do they?
That's a good question. Well, the podcast is just in English, so a lot of English speakers in other countries, it seems, are tuning in.
Oh, okay. You don't translate then?
No, not yet.
So far, not yet.
Yeah, because a lot of times I do them and there are different channels and they translate through the channels.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet. I bet that AI will soon enough be able to do that when you just drop in the file.
I don't know. I watch TV, and on TV they have the subtitles thing, and AI does it, and sometimes it's real gibberish.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
I think you're better off having a person do it.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
a lot of
absolutely.
really bright people, especially when you translate into major languages, that
Yes.
there are a lot of good people that can translate really well. I've got a guy that does the French, Michelle, that does a beautiful job, and we have Italians. It sounds so much better in Italian, actually.
Yeah.
Everything sounds better in Italian.
Everything tastes better in Italian.
That's right. I was thinking that too.
All right. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me,
much.
and hopefully I will see you guys again soon.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we will, Dr. Bandler. Happy New Year. A healthy, healthy, healthy one.
And remember to go to richardbandler.com, purenlp.com, and pay us a visit.
Yes, sir. We will do that for all of our listeners. Thank you so much for being with us today, and go out there and find Dr. Bandler today, because you're going to stop your suffering today. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good to see you, sir.
Lovely to see you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Empowerment Unleashed Now. Please subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and let us know how this helped you.
Join us right here every week for another episode.